and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social side, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force of air. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one leaves countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Afternoon. This is Game On. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Sunday, July the 12th, 2015. And I want to welcome everybody to the show. I've got a very special guest today, a lady I met on Facebook a week or so ago. And we got chatting, and I invited her to come on the show today. And before I bring her on, I just want to give a little background on her, because what I'm hoping today is that because she's from Russia, that we can spend a little bit of time discussing the similarities of what's going on in Russia and how it was broken down and how the West is being broken down in the same fashion today, so that people get a better grip of what's actually going on here in the West. And why it's going on. But more importantly, Anna Deeter, who is my guest, spent years as a speech therapist in Russia before moving to the United States, where she worked in speech therapy in California. And she has now started a program to help stutterers based on some of the knowledge that she learned from Russia. I'm going to bring her in here in a minute or two. I'm just going to run by some of her bio real quickly. I've already mentioned this. She worked as a speech therapist for 17.5 years in public school setting in the city of, which I can't pronounce, in Russia. Was appointed to the position of a director chairman of the speech language therapy department of the public school district in Russia. Designed a new program for educating young children with severely delayed speech. Regular guest on the Russian radio show. Immigrated to the U.S., had the Russian diploma evaluated, went to school in California, worked in 2 public districts in California. And that's something else we discussed when I was talking to her before, is that the difference between the Russian, how the Russian children were dealt with and how the children in California were dealt with is very important to understand. Received multiple awards for excellent achievements and remarkable results, and researched and discovered a breakthrough at the Edelon method for the elimination of stuttering, a condition which bothers a lot of people, I guess, and so on and so forth. She has now gone from a speech therapist to a speech educator. And there's a big difference between the two of those things. So I'd like you to welcome Anna onto the show now. Anna, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have you on.
Thank you
Um,
very much for
and
yes.
yes, where I'd really like to start, Anna, is back in Russia, and as you described to me, if we can start there because I find this very, very important for people to understand, is the system that was in Russia, and this is before the wall came down or the Iron Curtain came down,
Yep.
of how many people were actually dealing with how few children compared to what you found when you went to California, and then we'll just run from there.
Yeah, that was my very first shock that I got when I started working for the school district in California. That my very first work as a speech therapist. I worked for in the States. I worked for the Los Angeles Unified School District. But anyway, in Russia, I worked as a speech therapist for 17 years. And to me, the system of education in Russia, I didn't know back then. Now I do. But the system in former Soviet Union was just an amazing system of education. Just a little example, my work as a speech therapist, I had to work 12 students. So my caseload as a speech therapist had 12 students. And I would be complaining if they would give me one or two more. Wow, I don't have time to see more children. I can't help more children. 12 is a big number already. Also, I was a speech therapist and I had two teachers working two shifts, working with the same group of children. And we also had one person who would just take care of children, would feed them and helped around with taking care of them, of their needs. So they were children from 3 to about 7, 8 years old. So these children were considered as children that were preparing to go to school. So that was preparation. There were preparation years for school. And I could see these children, not see, like literally see. I could work with them. I could teach them for every day, 5 days a week. And I saw them individually, each of the students. I would pull one by one from the classroom, which was just next door to my office. And I would literally see and work with them for about 20 minutes every day individually. And then I would also have a group session once a day. Then in the second part of the day, the teacher would just, continue. They would continue working with the same group of children. And these were children with severe delays, developmental delays. Speech was just a little indicator of that delay. But those were children kind of with a lot of problems. And I will just give you the result. Over 17 years of my work with this kind of children, I didn't have one failure. Each and every of them would continue attending a normal public school. Normal. When I say normal, means just a regular public school for children with no special needs. So their special needs would disappear. Okay? So, and when I moved to California, it was a little bit different in Los Angeles. And as I said, it was my very first shock. And that was the time when at times I would have over 100 students on my caseload. Just compare 12 children and 100 and over 100. Yes, they paid very well. I was very comfortable. When I stopped working for the school district, my annual salary was almost $90,000 with all the benefits, with all the health insurance and everything with vacation pay. So it was very, very comfortable work that I had. Okay? But what I had to do with children, it was honestly, it was devastating for me. Nobody cared if I made any difference with these children. So the main goal for my work was to see them, literally see. Whether I'm going to help them or not, who cares? So I had to do a lot of assessments, every child, over 100 a week. So I had to do regular assessments. I had to write this individual education, IEP, individual educational plan. Yeah, that's what it stands for. So I had to write my section for every student again. And I had to see students' parents, and I would have to sit at the meetings. Can you imagine? 100 students, 100 meetings, okay? And it would happen regularly. It wasn't like once a year for sure, for every student we would have to have a meeting. But then we would have more meetings with parents more frequently because, of course, parents were not happy with the results. They wanted more. And the law required every time a parent would call the IEP meeting, we would have to hold it. And the meetings would go forever, from 2 hours to 5 hours, and sometimes several days. And guess what was happening during these days? Could I see my students? Of course not. So once again, I did not get a slight chance to actually really help my students, to really teach them. And I was encouraged, so all my colleagues were, and today it's even worse than when I started. I started in 2005. Now it's even much worse. Today, speech pathologists, speech therapists, teachers of children with special needs, they are encouraged and even required to group children, to educate them in huge groups, put them together, and whether they're going to help them or not, who cares? But at least they can document, yes, I saw a child. I saw my student. Do you see the difference between seeing and actually working with a student?
Yeah, like what we were discussing before is it's more like you went from teaching and helping students to basically administrating bodies and paperwork.
Yeah.
Became more important than the actual student.
Yes.
Right, and yeah, I can understand that, because what I see here, and it really bothers me, is that the teachers are given a curriculum to teach, but they don't. They're basically just going through the motions. They have a pension coming out the other end. They get a good paycheck every week, and they don't question anything. They just follow these curriculums, and not worrying about if they're actually being of any benefit to the student. The students become secondary, is what
Secondary,
I see.
I would just push them even further. Not secondary, but I don't know even how to say it. I mean, that was very last priority.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't have time for them. It's very simple. Didn't have time.
Yeah, and I find that a really big problem. Now, when I was telling you before, I see the teachers used to teach. And this is pre. This is definitely in the West, pre-World War One. The teachers would come in, and they were basically to teach basics, and that's what they taught. And they weren't filling. There wasn't really at that time a ulterior motive to teaching. It wasn't about mind control in that. It was just to get the basics down so that you knew how to write, read, do your math, and so on and so forth. And the curriculum was very tight. and then it become a way to basically change attitudes in that. The school system seemed to take on a totally different context, which we really see today. You know, when you have I mean, our school up here, and I'm in a small town of 7,000 people. The children aren't allowed to play baseball because they've qualified a baseball bat as a weapon. So now the children can't play baseball. They're not allowed to ask questions in class, not serious questions, right?
They are not allowed to speak in class, period. The phrase that every teacher likes to say and says almost every day, every class, be quiet.
Yeah, and I hear students when I ask them, like, don't you question your teachers? And they say, we're not allowed. And that is a sorry statement as far as the so-called education system is concerned. So now I did see that video from that gentleman who went to, and I find that absolutely fascinating because I don't think people, most people, and me included, our knowledge of Russia, the Ukraine, and the East Bloc basically is limited to most people to, you know, whatever they see on TV or in the newspapers or whatever. And so when I saw that guy's video who had been to Russia prior to the so-called Iron Curtain coming down, and he described Russia as a place where the people weren't what you would call affluent. The school system was good, and people had jobs and had places to live and whatnot, and food to eat. And when he went back after the wall came down, he was absolutely horrified because he ran into all kinds of homeless people, which he didn't know of the first time he was there. And people were out of work and suffering badly. And what I'm trying to explain on that end of it is that this is exactly what's going on here now. The Iron Curtain didn't come down for any other reason that they needed that to come down to create their world government, because they said they couldn't have a world government with two opposing superpowers. So basically what happened in Russia is exactly what's happening here, is that the business and the politicians got together and basically started taking control of businesses and selling off infrastructure and that to outside companies and that, and basically robbed the people of their birthright. And I see that's the same thing that's going on here now. Our politicians in that, and here and in the States, have joined forces, and they are pillaging, is what they're doing. They're pillaging the resources of the people and the lands, and taking it into their control and taking everything away from the people. And that's unfortunate.
Sorry to interrupt you, because people led them. We people led them do this.
Well, that's the whole point, you know, and we, each man and woman here, especially those that have children, have got to focus somehow and accept that what's going on is going on because, just like you said, we let them. Mm-hmm. We blame the politicians, we blame the corporations, but we are the ones that allow them to do it. So therefore, the only one that you can complain about in reality is you. You're the cause of your own problem.
Yeah, if I may, I would just explain the word allow. So when we allow someone to do is actually can be explained very simply, in a simple way, that we allow someone to do by not doing this job ourselves. And again, I'm going to go back to the education that I am so passionate about. If we do not, we parents, because I am myself a parent, I have, raised two very successful children. So if we do not educate our children ourselves, if we don't provide the values, we do not kind of put the valuable concepts in their mind, in the mind of our children, someone else will fill the vacuum. Someone else will do it. And we cannot complain that we don't like it. Sorry, we didn't do it. Do you see what I mean?
Well, the people have been taught, and I guess it's the school system that taught them. They got taught this somewhere, and it would seem the school system would be the logical place they got the teaching. Was it when I hear people say, well, they're doing this to us and they're doing that to us, but, you really can't fight City Hall and there's nothing we can do about it.
You can't. That's true. You can't fight, but you can educate your son and daughter or daughter. I've heard this very interesting expression about the remote control. When each of us has a remote control of our own life. And if you lose this remote control, you do not take care of yourself. Okay, you don't have control over your own life. Someone else will pick it up. And don't complain, because this person will begin to play with the buttons and will take control of your life. Same thing, that's what we do with our children. We have given away the remote control that we have. Each of the parents have this remote control. We delivered a baby to this world, a child. We have a remote control. We can control what we want our child to be, what we want our child to learn. But we give it away. Okay, we give it away to the school system, to the government, to everyone. And we just stay kind of away and watch someone damaging our children and complaining about it. Maybe it's time to pick up this remote control and use it.
Yeah, that's so important what you just said. I like that. I like the analogy of that, the remote control, and it's true. We have given the remote control to the state, and then we complain about the state. I just don't understand parents. Like when they're putting in transgendered washrooms in the schools, or the schools that don't have transgendered washrooms, that the children are being told that, if they feel like a girl today, they can use the girls' washroom, and if they feel like a boy tomorrow, they can use the boys' washroom. I mean, how messed up is this? What is this doing to the children's minds?
Actually, it's very interesting because, very easy to explain. School education, conventional system of education, is forming robots. And robots do not have gender, of course. Everything that's been in place right now, and they are going even further, is just taking away gender or any individuality from people, from children, and of course, future people. It doesn't matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you want to be, what you want to express. It doesn't matter. You are a robot. This is what the system of education is doing today, creating robots. That's just, if you think this way, everything is gonna be kind of in place.
Yeah, and the parents. I don't want to keep beating on the parents all the time, but they have a responsibility,
right?
And it kind of throws me that they can't or refuse to accept or see what's going on with their children. But then it stands to reason that people have come to the point now where it's like they can't see, hear, or speak. We talked about chemtrails a little bit, and I can stop and show somebody the sky, and they'll either turn away from it or they don't want to discuss it.
Yeah.
And this has been some kind of a mental block or something that's put in people's minds, and that is almost robotic. They don't seem to be cognitive of what's going on around them anymore. They're so easily manipulated now. The people of the past, my grandpa would never have put up with any of this stuff, or my grandmother would not have put up with it. Yeah. But yet, since the public school system was really started based on the Prussian school system, making product for the benefit of the state, it seems to have been this slow, agonizing downhill slide to ignorance is what we strive for.
Yeah, it's a Prussian system, of course. And I don't know if all your listeners know what Prussian system was about. Have you discussed that ever?
I have, but you're from the East. You're from that neck of the woods, sort of. So maybe you would be better to explain that.
Actually, I didn't know it myself. I just did my research and learned about it not a long time ago. But when I learned it first time a few years ago, I was shocked. And at the same time, I said, okay, now I understand what's going on. Because before I learned what Prussian system was, I couldn't understand why everything was so irrational, not logical. Everything was kind of upside down in the system of education in the United States of America. I couldn't understand why. Because it's such a great country, and all of a sudden, using such a strange way of educating children. So Prussian system of education, it was adopted by United States of America not a long time ago in the 20th century. And it was created by Prussian scientists, educators, and at the time when, think World War I, right? When during World War I, the German soldiers would run out of the battlefield for life. They didn't want to die. And they would disobey the orders of their military, bosses, and they would run away from the field. So the Prussian educators were given a task to create a system of education that would create people that would obey orders. So if they are asked to jump, they would just have to ask how high. That's how you say it, right? And they created this system of obedience, of following directions. And this system worked so well that's when the World War II, if you remember the history of World War II, there were great supply of young German kids that would just obey. And how do you say it in English? I know it in Russian, Hitlerjugend. How do you call it?
Allegiance?
Yeah, young children, they would say, anyway, so they were very obedient soldiers. That's how Hitler actually was able to rely on young generation, because these really young people in Germany were already raised with the use of this system. So after the World War II, this system, I don't remember exactly what year, I'm not too much into history, but I know that this system was adopted by the system of education in the States.
Well, when they brought the public school system in here, which was actually quite a time before World War II, right. And the same people that were involved in setting up World War II are the same people who were in control of the public school system. But we have universities here named after, like Ryerson University in Toronto. He was one of the gentlemen that actually went over to Prussia because they went over there to study, like you said, the Prussian school system. Yep. How do you get these people to just blindly obey? And brought it back and brought it into the public school system here. So it's been in place for a very long time. So sometimes I wonder. I don't know if I was one of the lucky ones or one of the unlucky ones, but since my earliest days in school, I felt something was wrong with this system. I wasn't getting knowledge, and it was being withheld from me. and wasn't allowed to ask questions. But what I saw was exactly that. But I didn't know what it was. That you stand when you're told to stand, you sit when you're told to sit, you go where you're told to go when you're told to go. And I thought, this is ridiculous, because before I went to school, my day was pretty free. I could go and look at things when I wanted to, and be where I wanted to, more or less. And it was all about discovery. When I got to school, discovery was taken away from me.
Yeah.
And I was just to obey. And when I left school, it was with the understanding that this is an education system. It's not a knowledge system. They're withholding. So I left school specifically because I knew everything's written down somewhere, and it's up to me to discover it. And that would be a knowledge and not education. And so they've done it over many generations now. So, quietly, sometimes I can't blame the parents. I can and I can't. They should be able to see some of this stuff by now. But they were brought through an education system of do as you're told and obey, and don't rock the boat kind of thing. And it makes them less able, I think, to stand up to what's going on in the school system today. I think that's the problem. They're told that they have to bow to authority all the time. They were taught that. So when they go to the school board because they have a complaint about what's going on in the school board is the authority and tells them, they're in charge, not the parents. And we thank you for your input, but go away and don't bother us. And the parents go away frustrated, but they don't seem to have any power to do anything about it because of the way they were brought up, to always bow to what any authority that's put in front of them. They must bow to that authority. And I think that's all to do with that Prussian school system.
Yes. It's a very wise system. Someone designed it in a very wise way to, for certain purposes. And yeah, they succeeded. And I would like to talk about one issue you mentioned, that before, when you were younger, there was freedom, and then your freedom was taken away from you when you started school, right? Mm-hmm. In a way, freedom, see, my mentor, didn't mention my mentor, but my mentor likes to say that the word freedom should never be used as one word alone, without freedom from what? It always has to be freedom from. That's why the way children are not free in school, their freedom is taken away. The way they teach is not bad. That's what I'm trying to say. Of course, you need discipline to learn. Of course, discipline is very important. A child cannot be free all the time. Otherwise, how he can or she can learn? We need discipline. However, the problem is what children are being taught, what they're offered to learn. This is the biggest problem that I see in education today. Because, and again, I want to go back to the basics that I'm so passionate about. And I would like to actually read a few words from the Bible, okay? It's so important that I always use this phrase. We need to know how to speak. We need to know words. So we knew what to do. Even parents, of course, they feel they don't have any power because those are the words that they have learned when they were young, okay? So, but if I read these words for you and for others, and I'm sure there are people that are familiar with this phrase, Bible says, John 1:1, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word with God, and the Word was God. So every time I read this phrase, I have goosebumps on my body, because word, speech, is everything. Anywhere we go, we have to speak. We're humans. We need to speak. It's the way of self-expression. And I have a question for anybody just to think about it. Does anyone teach our children to speak? Anywhere? Yes, we have speech pathology, therapists. When something goes wrong, they do therapy, pathology, and other medical approach things. And there are a lot of wonderful speech professionals that do a good job teaching. Not therapy, but teaching. But no one teaches our children how to speak, literally, how to use their lips and tongue to produce a speech sound, a sequence of speech sounds, which is a word. And this is the basics I'm talking about. And this is what I'm so passionately urging parents to take it back to their own hands, because no one teaches children how to express themselves in the natural, the most powerful way, oral speech. No one does it.
Well, the thing with the word, and this is when I started studying words, when we started looking, I did a lot of time looking at legalese and that, and words that we use every day. And then when I went back and looked at the etymology in the old dictionaries and the King James Bible and that, I found that words that we use, that we give a meaning to, is not the original meaning. And the word was God. And this is where we run into this deal of these, people call them the elite or whatever they want to call them. Through my studies in that, it seems to me that this small group of men and women have decided to play God, and the word was God. And if you go in that context, they have taken control of the word, and
Yep.
they have manipulated the word.
Absolutely.
So that when you go to put yourself in school or the child in school, the actual meaning of the words that are being taught are not the real meanings of the words. And that is where "let no man deceive you" comes from. It's all about deception and the misuse of words to enslave and entrap you. So it's very, very important that people, I can't say enough about etymology in the old Webster's dictionary from the early 1900s. It is absolutely fascinating to find that the words that we use have meanings attached to them that are not the actual meanings of the word, and they're introduced into our language system so that when we use them, we're actually deceiving ourselves. It's amazing, and it goes all back to knowledge, eh?
Of course. And also, you are talking about language, and we talked about it before. So language is kind of the second step. What I am talking is even what has to happen before every child has to learn language. Language is a whole bunch of words, right? But before you even learn those words and their meanings, you gotta learn how to produce these sounds, these words. And this is a huge problem. If you turn the TV on today and listen how people speak there, to me as a speech educator, it's just my ears hurt when I hear them. People cannot express clearly their thoughts because nobody ever taught them how to do that. And when you cannot express yourself clearly, it means that that's how you are in your mind. You don't have a clear program of what to do. And again, back to what you mentioned, that if you don't know the meaning, the real meaning of the word, then the miscommunication between people takes place. I say education, and you mean, or for example, I say cure, and You say cure, I mean education. See what's going on, at least in my field. People come to me and ask me, can you cure stuttering? And I always ask, why do you need cure? Are you sick? Why are you looking for a cure? And he would tell me, what's the difference? Cure, education, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It's totally different meaning. The word cure, medical approach, or a person who's just sitting and waiting when the remedy, the pill, magic device will work, and you do not do anything on your own. And education, when you have to learn, you have to practice, you have to apply what you've learned. It's totally different approach. So people must understand the meanings of the word, of course, the original meaning of the word. But before that, again, what I'm saying is people should know how to speak in the correct way. What do we need to do in order to produce clearly sequences of sounds? Words are sequences of sounds. So it kind of goes together, but both of them are so important.
Yeah, well, a cure, right? We're always looking for a cure.
Yep.
There's two things going on here all the time since I can remember. One, we're always looking for a cure, and we're always having a war on something, right? And I mean, how can you have a war on tobacco? I mean, what does that even insinuate? And we have to have a cure. We need to see when you're looking for a cure. Let me rephrase this. When you're always looking for the cure, you're never looking for the cause. Okay, you can't look for the cause if you're looking for the cure, because if you look for the cause, then you would find the cure. The cure is to stop ingesting what is making you ill. That would be a normal cure. Okay, not filling your body full of pharmaceuticals in that. I'm not big on pharmaceuticals because I believe everything you put in you has a reaction on you, and these pills that people are eating is not the cure. It simply masks the problem.
Yeah, and I don't know, you're probably aware that practically every child, I don't know, maybe not every, but most, I would say 90% of children that go to school today, they take psychotropic medication like vitamins. Maybe not 90. I don't know statistics, but I do know that it's a lot of children. They leave home with a pill in their mouth, psychotropic pill or something for attention deficit disorder.
I know someone that works in a pharmacy here in the town. We only have 7,000 people in the town, 12,000 in the whole municipality. We have 4 pharmacies here, and they're good-sized pharmacies. And I was talking to this lady one day, and I said, "What percentage of people in this town are taking pills?" And she told me to guess, and I said, "I don't know, 60%." And she just said, "You're not even close." Wow. So we kept going up the scale, and I'm getting more and more tentative as I go up the scale because I'm in complete disbelief. Yeah. And we hit like 90% of the people in this small town are taking a pill of one sort or another for some ailment or a malady that they supposedly have. And I'm going, that's not even possible. Mm-hmm. And so when I was a child, which is getting to be some time ago now, when we would go to my grandma and grandpa's places and that, and they're usually on a farm out in the country, and they all ate healthy food and whatnot, and they were strong people. They worked in the fields and in the bush and whatnot. They're very healthy people. Lots of exercise. Lots of good food, lived to be extremely old, but they didn't just become old sitting in a chair with a bunch of pills and needles being infused into them. These people live to be very healthy, very old, very independent, healthily, very old. And when I was a child, it would be sitting around and they'd be talking, and it was like if someone had to take a pill for whatever, they were looked at as they were pitied, and they were looked upon as being feeble. And it's so sad about so and so because the doctor has her taking a pill now. Now, when you're talking to people, when I talk to people, they say, "What pills are you taking?" I said, "I don't take any pills." And honest to God, Anna, the look on their faces of shock. How can you not be taking a pill? You're 60 years old. How can you not be taking pills? Well, Grandpa was 92. He wasn't taking any pills. Why are you taking the pills is the question.
Yeah.
Well, the doctor told me to.
Yes, the doctor told me to.
Right.
And you know what? I'm not against all medication. Of course, this is why we are, people, we're smart, and there are some medications that we need to take sometimes, whatever. If you have a broken arm, a doctor needs to put a cast on your arm or whatever. Yes, we need some meds sometimes, but it's just out of proportion today, totally. And the main thing that I'm concerned is that children are on drugs. I don't have statistics. I'm not going to go there. I just know that every parent I talk to has a child who takes something, some supplements, not supplements, some drugs. And what is killing me is that a lot of children are taking medication, strong medication, psychotropic medication for attention deficit disorder, which is such a scam. Don't even start me on it.
Well, it is a scam. And like I was telling you, I was talking to a young guy, 17 years old, and who is not in school now. And he's bright. He's really bright. And so he doesn't fit into the system. And they asked him to basically leave because he was so bright. They want to bring this all down to a lowest level they possibly can. And the last thing they need in school is someone smart enough to start asking questions. So they asked him to nicely leave. But I mean, they have a pill for everything in school now. And why would someone who is 10 years old be taking medicine because, maybe he's a little more energetic than the kid sitting beside him or is more curious than the kid sitting beside him? So we have to give him a pill because the story seems to always be that he's disturbing the class. So we just have to give them a pill. And I don't know why parents get suckered in like that so easily. Little Johnny or Susie seems to be somewhat upsetting the class or whatever, and ADH, whatever they call it, attention deficit disorder or whatever, seems to be a catchphrase, and we'll have to put them on medication.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that drugs is one part of it, but there is another danger, extreme danger for our children, growing children, which is hidden. I am talking about electronic devices that every child now uses. I've seen not a long time ago, a couple of days ago, I saw a child not older than 2 years old sitting in the carriage and playing something on the cell phone, some game. It was just amazing. And I will just tell you a very short story. I went to the party not a long time ago to a house. There were a lot of children there. It was with loud music, people were dancing, communicating, a lot of people. And I just stood by the big couch with 7 boys sitting on the couch. And I just pointed to my husband. I wanted him to see what I saw. 7 young boys, age maybe from 5 to 12. They were all sitting quietly next to each other. Each of them had a device. and and they were playing on these devices. No communication, no conversations, nothing. Each of them were quietly sitting. The parents were having a ball. The parents were free, and the kids were behaving. And it lasted for about 2 hours. No one bothered them. They were happy that parents didn't ask them to do anything. And the parents were happy because, they didn't have to worry about their kids, what they're doing. So this is a horrible side effect of the technology that we have today. So
yeah, the technology is the technology's come a long ways, and personally, I don't know what I'd do without the internet. My internet goes down, I go into shock. But then I research most of the time I'm awake. I used to research in libraries with the big old dusty books, which is really tough to do. So the internet, if you know how to use it properly, it's a great tool for fetching papers and knowledge and stuff. But at the same time, it's a two-edged sword, because you could spend, like you said, when you have these people sitting on a couch side by each, and there's no, like, what do you want to do? No, I just want to sit on the couch and play with this thing here and text back and forth or something. Why are you texting someone when you have 5 other people your own age sitting there? Why don't you go find something to do?
Of course,
right?
That's what they've been taught. And that's, again, you ask the question, why would the parents give them drugs? Why would the parents give them this remote control? These devices. I want to say, who has the remote control? Who is in charge for a child until he or she turns 18? I remember when I was in Russia, it wasn't like this, of course, some years ago, but if my child would ask me, Mommy, why should I do that? I would easily say, because I say so. It was nothing wrong with doing this. I am the parent. I am the mother.
Yes, but then that moved to the state. The state became the parent.
Yes.
The child's asked the state, why do I have to do that? Because I told you to. My attitude when I was young in school, I'm thinking, well, where do you got the authority to tell me? You're not my parent. My parent can tell me.
Yes.
My parent can give me a swat up the back of the head and say, don't do that.
This is so true.
But
Yes.
You have nothing to do with me. Where do you get this authority over me? Right? and I think this is a huge problem.
Yep.
And I think sometimes the parent thinks, you hear if there's going to be a teacher's strike or something, parents, they go into a meltdown because, oh my God, what am I going to do if there's a teacher's strike? I'll have to look after my kid.
Yeah, my God, what I'm going to do. I also had a very funny conversation not a long time ago. The grandmother of a stuttering child, called me, and I kind of giving her some tips and explaining what to do with her own grandson. And she said, Anna, but if I do this, if I make him speak, for example, tell him, no, you have to do this. We were talking about being passionate, compassionate, this kind of thing, philosophical things discussed. And I said, you just take away privileges from him. If he doesn't do his job, take away the privilege. And she goes like, oh, but he's not going to love me if I do that. Or he's not going to be compassionate about other people in trouble because I am not compassionate, kind of Luke, not compassionate when he is stuttering and I am so tough on him.
It's a classic case. Yep. Just as I'm listening to our conversation here, it just becomes more and more apparent all the time that, like when you said, "Well, take the privilege away from the child," to the parent. The parent says, "Well, the child won't listen or won't allow me to take away his privilege." Yet the child has been taken over by the state, and everything in that child's life is about privilege. but the child says, well, you're my parent. You can't take away my privilege. But then the kid signs on with the state, and his whole life is based on state-given privileges, not proper rights. It's all, and the state would say, you bow down or I'll take your privilege away. And that kid is trained again in the Prussian school system to understand that he must obey the state, where in fact he doesn't have to obey his parents. So the whole thing's upside down.
Yes. But again, when I understand and realize that the whole thing is upside down, but I'm very, very much into solutions. And the solution is actually very simple, believe it or not. It's a lot of work, yes, but solution is very simple. The moment each of us, parents and not parents, people that are in charge of education, educating others, the moment we understand the very simple phrase that I use in my classes all the time, everything is going to be back from head to legs. It's kind of Russian expression. So you are what you do. We are what we do. I am what I do. And just think about it for a second. You are what you do. So if you are a parent and you have a child who, even in the system, you gotta learn words that you use to raise your child, because words are everything. As I said, I keep coming back to this. Every word is a program of action. Every single word. You say a word, that's what you're gonna do. And if a parent gives a child the correct words, a child will be learning these words, he will be repeating these words, and he or she will be performing correct actions, exact actions that he just sounded out. So you are what you do. Teachers, if you are a teacher, teach children correct words. Don't give them lies that you yourself sometimes don't believe in. Give them correct words, truth, reality. If you are a parent, again, teach your child correct words. Don't give them lies. Don't give them words that you yourself don't even understand or not sure what they mean. Don't repeat after some authorities just because they are authorities, because authorities, yes, they are always people. These people also make mistakes. I like to repeat another phrase because we actually all are repeaters. So I like to repeat a phrase that stupid people create stupid laws.
Well, that's good, because that's exactly what's been happening.
Yep. Authorities create their laws, right? In the school system, they create their own laws. But are they smart authorities if they create not smart laws? So we just have to take care of our own lives, our own actions, our own children, because children are low consciousness creatures. They don't know anything yet. And they are like sponges. They learn from the moment a child is born. He or she will begin to learn everything. They suck information from their environment. If there is a good speaker around this child, a person who says correct words in a good way, then a child will learn this. Will learn the way to speak and express himself in this way. But unfortunately, there are not too many good speakers around today. The generation after generation, the self-expression has been taken away from people. We are much worse speakers than our ancestors, right? Like generation before. And our kids, I don't know if our kids will ever speak. They now play devices, electronic devices, and take pills.
Well, I do know that they can't do math. I do know that they can't spell. We discussed this a little bit. When I go back and I read a book that was written in the 1200s or the 1600s, and I look at the use of words and how sentences are put together there and the clarity, and to what I look at today, there's no comparison whatsoever. So we've lost our connection with words.
Absolutely. And you mentioned spelling, that kids cannot spell. It's amazing because this brings back to my awareness of a whole language technique that they started using sometimes ago when they introduced Prussian system. They use this whole language technique. And they still have this program, for example, the program Your Baby Can Read. I don't know if you've heard about this program. Your Baby Can Read. It's a huge lawsuit now against this program, but they make a lot of money. But when I talk about it, the parents are actually angry. They don't understand. What do you mean you should not teach a baby letters before a child can speak? What do you mean? You don't understand anything. You don't know what you're talking about. It's so good. For a baby, the earlier the better. A baby knows letters and begins reading. So the whole language technique is about showing a child words, whole word, and have them memorize this word as a picture. You're talking about phonics, forget it. Not phonics. They just have to memorize the picture of letters, put it in their mind, and that's how they teach a baby to read. And the baby, of course, doesn't even know how to speak yet. And this is amazing. When I watch these videos, there are a lot of videos about that on YouTube. A baby, 13-month-old, 15-month-old, cannot even speak yet. So they show them a picture. I call it a picture, but it's a word with letters. And a baby says, something like, you don't even understand what he says, very close to the word, how it's supposed to sound, but not exactly. And the parent is so happy, yay, that's what it is. And guess what? A child is learning that the word, the written word, is what they just said, because the parent was happy. That's right. So spelling is the second step of self-expression. In terms of learning, the very first and powerful way of self-expression is, as I said, natural speaking. Our children must learn how to speak, how to move their lips and tongue in a sequential order to create positions for sounds, create words. That's the first, the most important self-expression skill, okay? And the next one, of course, then you can teach kids, draw pictures, dance. It's also the ways of self-expression. But the other way we're talking about is learning to write, spelling. It's a totally different skill that we must teach every child. And I don't know if you noticed that recently I was shocked to learn that today kids are not even taught how to spell words appropriately in terms of writing. They don't teach kids handwriting. They teach them typing on the computer. And the way they type, I do get messages from young people. They text me all the time. I work on Facebook almost 24 hours. And when they text me, I am a stutterer. I can not speak. And I cannot even read their text messages because they spell in the way they cannot spell and they cannot speak.
Well, this
So
is a problem with the texting. I find, like, I discussed that. Like, my nephew couldn't spell, and he didn't know how to sound out a word, and he didn't know what even phonics meant. He had no clue, and so I had to kind of teach him that, which made spelling much easier for him. But it's not something that he was taught in the school. He had no idea what I was even talking about, and he was struggling in school. And it's like they do this on purpose in a fashion as to make these children illiterate, basically. And so then they give them then they start texting, and so they're using, text language, I guess you would call it, which is this broken language that spelling seems to have no point in at all. It's just this text gibberish that they understand. So they're taking the children into a place that is going to be very dangerous for them when they grow up. The other thing I found about education is that if you look back in history, most young men and women, and for various reasons and causes, it's not always the same, but they were looked upon as adults, basically young adults, with responsibilities of an adult, when they were as young as 14 years old. And now we have people who are in their 30s still living with their mom and dad. And so the child of old was a man or a woman at a very, very young age. And today, what you would have called middle age back then, are still children living with their parents.
and you know what? When they come to me in text messages, they write to me, I am a kid. I am a kid. I'm just a kid. They write so many times. I, I will have a message from them. And when I ask them, how old are you? They could be 30 years of age.
I know, it's freaking amazing. It's spooky.
Just a kid. I'm a student and a university student. I'm just a kid. I don't make any money. I'm kind of, when I communicate, very often I begin communication with people that are in a very, very bad place. Some of them are ready to commit suicide. That's how their life is kind of out of whack. So, and I begin communication back and forth, texting, and I would say, how do you support yourself? And they go like, what are you talking about? I don't have a job. I don't work. I'm just a kid. I'm a student, university student. I'm a kid.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they've done. And I know you have a business which came out of Russia, from a doctor there that you studied, and you were working as a speech therapist, and you've changed that now to classify yourself as a speech educator, which is a big difference.
Yes.
A speech therapist is someone basically looking for a cure, and we discussed the difference between education and knowledge. And education, so basically, you've begun a business of basically helping stutters through education. And education, if you look up the root of the word, is about training. And
Yep.
and knowledge is the knowledge that you have gained in order to train or educate people to help solve their stuttering problem. But I see a vast expansion of if you will call it education, which is training, but it's also we have a huge problem here in around the world of generations of people being hoodwinked, if you will, or told wrong information in order to allow themselves to be controlled by the state. So I would think that one could expand on the idea of education to the point where what we do need is and I know and the listeners know and the parents know that we have to basically, just as the Prussians did with their education system. The idea was to get a hold of the child. The child is an empty vessel that we can fill. It's a void. It's an empty container that we can put whatever we want into to train it to be whatever we want it to be. And so all of this nonsense that 30-year-old people live in a home and they're still children and whatnot, this is all part of the problem of them being got at a very young age. So now we need to do two things. We need the parents to understand the system so that the state doesn't get their children's minds, and two, that we need to get to those children as well, and show the children that they've been hoodwinked and they've been told untruths. And really, there is a whole business out there of what I would call deprogramming. And it's important that it gets done. I have deprogrammed a few people, and it is freaky to watch. When I was big in explaining the ruse of this renewable energy system that they're trying to build on totally false pretenses, and these people were like disciples of it. And through just regular conversation and them hanging on to what they believe to be true and just working with them a little bit, it usually took approximately an hour. And people would come when they saw me talking to their people, would always try to pull their people away from me because they know who I am. And, sometimes every now and again I'd get a guy that'd say, no, I want to hear what he says. I know he's full of garbage and he's a conspiracy. I want to hear what he's got to say. Yeah. And within the period of an hour of just simple, calm exchange, I'm telling you this, Anna, it freaked me out the first couple of times I saw it. All of a sudden, their eyes got real bright.
The light turned on.
I'm serious. It was that direct. I mean, it was like this whole person's facial expressions changed. Their eyes got very bright, and when the people came back to get them, they said, "Get away from this guy." The people would go, "He's right. This is all a fraud."
Yep.
And then the most amazing thing would happen after that. These people were good friends. They were in the same business together. Yeah. And they would just say, "Fine. Screw off. I don't want anything to do with you anymore," because one has awakened and one hasn't.
Uh-huh.
Right? And but we're not going to get anywhere doing one, this month and one 2 months from now, 1 year from now. We need to make a real effort to come up with a system that is quick and effective, so that we do basically have to. The people here today are so messed up, and they were programmed, like you mentioned before, to be a state robot. They were programmed. Yeah. And it's so important to begin a system of deprogramming, because I don't know how we're going to fix anything if we can't deprogram these people.
The thing is that we cannot reprogram anybody. I cannot reprogram anybody, and you can't.
Well, you can bring it. I don't mean by reprogram, but I mean you can get them to see at least.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. I don't mean a scientific deprogramming.
Yeah. See how important every word. I'm listening to every word. So what I'm saying is that my job as an educator is to share my knowledge, to give information. People come to me, they ask, I answer questions, because this is exactly how our learning happens, how the light gets turned on in our mind. We ask questions. If people don't ask questions, then you cannot convince anybody in anything. They are not into this. And they're going to deal with consequences of their ignorance.
Okay. See, this is why I like talking to you, Anna. You make me think. Okay. And that's good.
And by the way,
so I have to back up on the deprogramming now.
Okay.
And what you just said is what I've been saying for as long as I can remember. And if we look at deprogramming as I can't deprogram you,
No, you
although I
can.
have, not you, but I have other people. And it wasn't about really deprogramming. When I say that, it's probably wrong for me to even say that. And so I stand corrected, is that what I have always said, and I did do a magazine for a while, and it was simply called Why. And the idea was that you must ask that question because the question why, of all the other, who, what, where, when, and why is the only question that will lead you to seek an answer. And so when I talk about deprogramming, I guess I'm talking about to give people the tools, the capacity, the authority, if you will, to go and seek out and ask why. Why am I being taught this? Why am I told I can do this and I can't do that? Why? Because each time you ask that question, it leads you to go and find an answer. And each answer you find leads you to a new question.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you gain knowledge. And that's how you gain mental independence.
When you say gain knowledge, that's what it is. You program yourself. That's what it is. You can program yourself only based on the answers that you hear and accept or not accept.
Okay, so that takes me back to deprogram. It's not actually sitting someone down and putting a light in front of their face and saying, I'm about to deprogram now. Listen to every word I say, rah, rah, repeat after me. No, it's to give them the tools and the encouragement to basically enter themselves into a self-motivated deprogramming program,
right,
if you will, which is the program of asking questions and demanding and seeking the answers.
And once again, it takes us back to the system of education. Our children are not taught to ask questions, really. I mean, when a child is in special education department, I remember that I had to work with children, teaching them how to ask these 5 questions. But in general, we do not teach kids to ask. We don't. It's again, robots don't ask questions.
Well, it's a lot to do with the parents too, because this is a really old story, and I didn't mean to cut into you there, but this just hit me in the head. I was on the West Coast. I went there because it was warm, and I was working in Calgary at the time. And although I was offered an extremely good position and good pay and lots of benefits to go to Winnipeg, after spending an awful lot of time outside in Calgary in the wintertime, I was almost froze to death. So I decided when the job was over, I had a sister on Vancouver Island, I would go there. So while I was looking for work, she used to babysit this 3-year-old, I think he was. Maybe it was 3, I think. And so sometimes she would have to go somewhere, go to work. So I'd look after this kid. And they considered him to be developmentally handicapped or something. And, I got to spend time with this kid and work with this kid. And I do believe that young children, because you teach young children the basics, it's the same as my sister used to get mad at me. I said, a young child isn't a whole hell of a lot different than a dog. If you don't teach the child the basics when it's young, or a dog the basics when it's young, of what's expected of it,
100%.
Once they get to a certain age, you got your hands full because you're going to have a hard time training that dog and you're going to have a hard time training that kid at that point. But this kid was always sucking on this soother. And I couldn't understand why this kid of 3 years old was still sucking on a soother. So I worked with him for a couple of weeks. And I finally got him to the point where I had him convinced that he was a big boy, and big boys don't need soothers, right? And I got him to the point where his mom would drop him off and make sure the soother was in his mouth and make sure he had a spare if he lost the one and all this kind of crap. And I would I would work with the kid that he was a big boy, and big boys don't need soothers. And I got to the point where I'd say, "What are you going to do with the soother?" I'm a big boy, and he'd toss it. And so when his mom came to pick him up one day. I took him out the door, and he didn't have his soother. And she was really all excited. Where's the soother? Where's the soother? And I said, Deeter doesn't really need his soother anymore. And so she was all upset. So I went and got the soother, and I handed it to him. And I said, are you a big boy? Yes, I am. And what do you do with soothers? And he just pitched the thing, right? He fired it down the stairs, and it landed past his mother. The absolute, his mother, her eyes bugged out like, oh my God. And she grabbed that soother, and she ran upstairs, and she stuck that soother back in that kid's face, right? You need this, right? And I thought, there's a kid that I've got a hope, you know? Parenting is a weird animal, and but a lot of this gets taught to them through doctors and therapists and all this kind of stuff. Keep the soother in your kid's face, keep them passive, and so on and so forth. And I just felt bad for the kid, and I don't know if that story has anything to do with anything.
Of course.
But I just wanted to bring that out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we are dealing with. You just gave an example, a very typical example when you can do, you worked with this child for 2 weeks and you achieved something, but you cannot do anything because the parents are in charge. They keep the remote control or not. So you probably worked hard, but it doesn't matter what you did because the mother spent the most time with the child. And that's why when I work with my students and when they are young, because I work with the students from any age. My youngest student was recently 7-year-old and my oldest was 58, not that old, 58 years old. And when I work with a child, I mostly work with the parents. It's a parent training. I train parents how to continue speech education with their child. And at first, parents get upset. They said, what do you mean? 3 days? You promise in 3 days a child should stop stuttering. I go like, yes, I'm talking about an adult who can do it using his consciousness. But the child, he doesn't have consciousness yet, and he hasn't learned words yet. He has to continue learning words. And anyway, but yes, what I would give information, I would share the knowledge. It's 100% reliable solution, how to teach a child to speak. But whether or not a child or adult, whether or not a child, the parents of a child or an adult will stick to this information, it's out of my power. I cannot do anything. It's the same story again with doctors. I like to repeat the same thing. We do not need that many doctors. We need health educators. Yes. We need people, specialists, that would teach people how to eat right, how to exercise, how to learn correctly, how to do things correctly.
But see, this is how much has been taken away from us, Anna.
Yes.
Okay, when you speak of, health educators and this and that and the other thing, we never had health educators. We had families.
Yes.
We had neighbors. We had friends. We had communities. We had community meeting halls. We had community dinners. And I'm not talking about community as in, i.e., United Nations style community. That's a whole different animal. That's the destruction of the community and the building of a false community, but a state community versus a people community. But this is what I think we've lost so much of, is that people knew what to eat. They knew what was healthy. We didn't have people with these so-called cholesterol problems. We didn't have people with real high blood pressure. We didn't have people with diabetes and all this stuff. I mean, there was certain people that did, but the general population, it wasn't a general malady that was going on that required all of these pills and doctors and yada, yada, yada. It's like they built an industry. They built an industry out of what is natural.
Yes. But at the same time, back then, we didn't have genetically modified food.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So now we've poisoned our food and our water and our brains, and now we need people to teach us what to avoid. Well, why are we avoiding something that shouldn't be there in the first place? So the cure to the food system is not to teach people to seek out proper food. It is to remove the improper food from the system. Okay, so if we just remove the modified foods and go back to real food, I mean, it's ridiculous even to say this: real food versus fake food versus organic food. I mean, food was food, and food was healthy.
Okay, see, this is the what I want to tell you, that the word remove, the word remove is an action, right? So if you are focused on removing, then you are not going to be focused on eating the right food. Let me explain it in a very simple way. If I want to remove some bad habits. For example, I have a bad habit. Okay, let's take something very simple. If I smoke and I want to remove a bad habit of smoking, you know what I need to do? I just need to focus on living healthy. My hand will never touch the cigarette. That's the agreement I have to make with myself. I will never touch the cigarette with my hand. That's what I have to focus on. Okay? And just live my life that doesn't have this bad habit. The bottom line, when you remove something, it is not enough. You have to get something that you're going to substitute it with.
Okay. See, this again, this is why I enjoy this so much, because I'm really enjoying this. Is that so I'm saying remove what is harmful to us, and I suppose the other way of looking at it, which is what I do, is if everyone just avoided eating GMOs, just like I always tell people, don't buy a newspaper.
Yes.
Okay? If you don't engage with them, and everyone stops engaging with them, then they will go away because they won't be able to stay afloat.
There is a very easy way again, very easy way. It's not avoiding buying something. It is not doing something. When I come to the store, I don't know in Canada, but in the States, there was a big debate whether to label GMO or not. So they failed. They didn't label GMO. You know what companies started doing? Labeling non-GMO. So every time I come to the store, I look at the label. Non-GMO, perfect, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah,
so
but
that's what I'm focused on.
Yeah, I get that. But because you're a speech educator,
okay,
and I'm enjoying the hell out of this. Someone left a message in the chat here, which I think needs a speech educator to explain. Someone left this message. This show is kicking much ass.
Oh. Didn't mean to kick anyone's ass. Thank you.
And yes.
All I do, I always speak the truth. You know, my husband likes to tell me that, Anna, you always have your foot in your mouth. Because this is, I always say what I know. I never speculate about things. At least recently, I've become wiser since I've been working with my mentor, it's a Russian scientist. By the way, you mentioned that he was a doctor. He's not a doctor. He is an academic.
Okay.
Academic. I use the term doctor because I didn't know how to call it in English, because English language doesn't have the word like this. He's a master of education. Let's put it this way. Master. Academic. Member of science academies. 2 science academies. So we just to explain what happens in the world at the moment using simple words. And because we actually know how every human acts, what every human being is, and how we operate in the world. This is where all the knowledge is coming from. Don't know if it makes sense to you. So we are the ones that make mistakes in our actions, whether it's not eating right, not exercising correctly, or not raising our children correctly, not doing this and that. Those are our mistakes in our actions.
Well,
the solution is not changing this way. It's not removing the wrong way. It's learn how to do it correctly and do it simple.
And that has a lot to do with bringing back into the fold the family and taking more responsibility for the children and everything else. I mean, here sometimes I get I'm like you. I'm too damned honest for my own good. But when we kept my in-laws here for years after, people say you should put them in the home. And, I said, well, will you put your child in the home? So, I think we have to get back to the responsibilities of the family. And we have to stop looking at the state to solve all our problems for us and that. And again, that's basically just taking simple responsibility for yours and your own, right? And make sure that they're taught properly, and that they have the good base, and that you respect your elders and whatnot. That's all we when you boil it all down, that's all we really have. Yeah. That's the anchor to your life, and if you let that anchor get away from you, then you're set adrift. Right, and then you can be pulled here and there and all over the place, and you never really. I think there's so many people out there that are floating around that aren't even actually involved in what I would call life.
Yeah, you know how my students sometimes, it always brings how I work with my students, and very often I hear from them, Anna, this is hard. This is hard to be in control for my own actions. And I just always tell them, what's the easiest thing to do in the world? Lay down in front of the TV and eat popcorn and drink beer. That's easy. When someone else gives you popcorn, someone else provides beer, someone else turns the TV and entertains you, that's very easy. Learning is hard.
Yes, but learning is much more interesting, and if we could get people to understand that, learning something is to be involved in something. To sit on the couch and chew on popcorn and drink beer and sit around with the clicker going, well, there's nothing on. Well, we got 100 channels, nothing on. So let's watch the best of the worst 100 channels. That is not interesting. That is mind-numbing. That is destructive. Once people begin to learn, and I do believe that that's driven out of them in the school system. By the time people get out of school, they don't want to read a book. They don't want to learn anything. And I think that's on purpose, because once you don't want to know anything, then it's much easier for you to be manipulated. So, if people could just understand that, once you ask, just try this. Ask yourself a simple question about something you don't know, and then go find the answer to it. And you will find that you're probably smiling for your endeavor, And if you do this a little while, because you know and I know, Anna, things are habit forming. Sitting in front of the TV afterward with a meal and the popcorn and watching TV is a habit.
It's learned
But
behavior.
it's a destructive habit.
It's a learned behavior, by the way.
Right.
Learned.
Yeah. And so if once someone, if you go and you just ask yourself a question, decide, I wish to go and find out the truth behind this or the knowledge of this, and once you do that a few times, you will find that you want to do it more,
It's fun.
and
Of-
that's where you get your knowledge. And
And
once you have the knowledge, then you can see, and once you can see, then you can become who you're supposed to be
who you want to be.
or want to be. Yeah.
That's right. You can be yourself. You can hear this, like from motivational speakers. Get off your ass and be yourself. Try again. Try again. If you fail, it's okay. Get up and try again. This never works. Or when the energy of a motivational speaker works for a very short time. And eventually it kind of blah, 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 it dies out because it's someone else's. It's external energy. It's not my energy. This is why it's so important. I just wanted to go back a little bit about TV because we talked about it earlier about TV. People that have developed a habit turn the TV the moment they come home after work from work. Kids are running around maybe and the TV is screaming and nobody is talking to each other. Everyone is watching TV, whether it's interesting or not, whether it's helpful or useful or not. Everyone is staring at this TV. TVs are everywhere. Anywhere you go, you see TV screaming at you. I just want people to think, you probably know that, but I want people to think about one word. TV has programs. Programs. Every program is designed to program listeners. I just love words. It's a program, of course. They even don't hide that that's what it is for. TV is for entertainment and for programming you and your life.
When I was young and we still had black and white TVs, and the TV didn't run 24 hours a day, and they shut off like at 11 o'clock, or they shut off after the 11 o'clock news or whatever. They always did that. They always said at the end of each day, they would say, "And now ends our programming day."
Really?
Yeah. And then they would give you a test pattern to stare at, right?
Yep.
So I mean, I don't have a TV, haven't had one for years, and I wish everybody would take theirs outside and bury it, because it is a very, once you've been away from the television for a little bit, my wife in particular, she has some sensitivities that maybe I don't have. I've been hit maybe once or twice too many times, and I'm not quite as sensitive as she is. Maybe it's because she's a woman. I don't know. But she actually, because we haven't had a TV for quite some period of time, when we go to someone's place, and it's usually for some kind of a meal or something, and as soon as you're done, everybody's sitting watching TV before the meal, then you eat the meal. After the meal, everybody goes to sit and watch front TV again.
Yep.
And you go, well, this isn't really engaging anybody, right? We're discussing things that have no bearing on anything in our lives. But she finds that within a few moments of sitting down in front of a TV now, she actually feels nauseous. Now, some people say it's because of the frame rate and so on and so forth, right? But, I've read stuff where once you've watched TV for a certain period of time, it puts you into a different consciousness or whatever.
There are a lot of things that are not good for a physical body, for the mind and the body of human because of watching TV. It's really bad. But, your wife and you and I actually with my husband, we made a decision. We don't even have it in our house. That's it. We don't need it. We don't need anybody to program us. because we realize that we are what we do. Programming is my action. I program my own actions. I don't care what others, when I watch, I don't know what's going on, but recently I can't even watch movies.
That's funny. That's funny you brought that up. We used to go to the movies. Never were big, but we go to the movies every now and again. And we got to the point where we go to the movie house and we would sit there and we would be looking at people watching the movies, and we knew exactly what the movie was about, but the people in the theater didn't seem to get it. And it got to the point where we would go and pay to see a movie and then watch it for 20 minutes and get up and walk away. Yeah. And we haven't been to a movie in years now. And what I also say to people, when you're staring at the TV, all you're doing is watching people at work.
Yeah.
This is their jobs. This is what they do. Their job is to manipulate you, and they're getting paid to do the job. So all you're doing is watching someone else work. So you worked all day, then you come home and sit on the couch and do crack a beer or a soda or whatever, and then you spend your evening watching somebody else work.
And at this moment, your children are sitting next to you. And yes, instead of using this valuable time for communication, for educating your children, for having fun with your children, that's the precious time when you can just teach your child. You are sitting and watching TV. And your kids, of course, will grow and they will do the same because that's what they learn. So
and see, this is something, somebody just put something here in the chat, and it says, now we have paid for TV to keep the channels going at night. Yeah, and that's the ridiculous part of it. These people are pushing programming at us, and we actually pay for it.
Hey, don't you pay for the universities, for colleges? These are also programs. Someone created the program. It's called the same word, the program, educational program. They program you to become a specialist. And I don't know if people are aware, but just ask questions. Who wrote all these textbooks for all these universities?
Exactly.
Who wrote the books?
Exactly. Who controls the knowledge? And this is another stupid story that I've said before, but I never had problems in school. I didn't really have to pay a lot of attention. I found it very mind-numbingly slow. And so, I was an outside guy. I would rather be playing ball or football or fishing or swimming or doing something other than sitting in the house. And so, I had a paper that I was supposed to put in, apparently, and had forgotten about it. And my parents got these big bunch of encyclopedias, which was all the rage then. You must get knowledge to your child or your child will be left behind. Oh my God, right? And so my parents bought these encyclopedias. So I thought, I have to write this paper. And the only time I've ever done in my life, I just plagiarized the whole thing. I just sat the encyclopedia down and wrote verbatim what was in it on the subject, took it to school, handed it in, and got a failing grade. And well, I figured the teacher knew I didn't write it, right? It was in a fairly early grade. And so, I thought, okay, I got caught, big deal, right? I should have been caught. I deserve to be caught, and I deserve to have a failing grade because I plagiarized this stuff. I'm good with all of that. But being the curious dog that I've always been and always asked questions, I went to the teacher and I said, why did I get such a rotten grade? And I expected the teacher to say this, come on, Ron, you didn't write that. I would have been good with that. Uh-huh. But that's not what the teacher said. She said, it's wrong.
Oh.
And I go, whoa, excuse me? It's wrong. I just copied that verbatim out of the encyclopedia. Well, it's not what's in our book. Well, then I expect the teacher to say, well, wait a minute, you better go bring me that encyclopedia so I can compare these two texts so I can figure out what's right and what's wrong. But that's again not what the teacher said. She said, I don't care if it came out of an encyclopedia. This is what's in our book, and this is what we are told to teach you, and that's what we're teaching you, regardless if it's right or wrong. So when you said, who wrote the textbooks? Who's in charge of this?
Who has the most control?
Right. But it saddened me that the teacher doesn't seem to be the least bit concerned when you have two opposing texts, one out of a school book and one out of an encyclopedia, that they don't even care to take the time to figure out which is right or which is wrong, or maybe they're both semi-right and semi-wrong. No care at all. This is just what we're told to teach you, and this is what you're being taught. We're the programmers.
Yeah, but the problem is that the teachers are not being paid for figuring out what's wrong, what's right. They are paid for programming whatever they have to do. I mean, whatever is in textbook, they have to teach. But I still believe that this is the job of a parent, to give a child the best education.
The parent is the alpha teacher, if you want to call it alpha teacher, right?
Of course.
And that got to go back to the family, right? That all has to go back. We've gotten away from where we started, which worked, and it made people to think independent, and it made them so that they were there to help their neighbors. They didn't look for the state. Now, if the neighbor's house burns down, people go, oh, well, the insurance company look after it, and that we don't have to worry about anything. In the old days, if there was a catastrophe like that, it was the neighbors that came to the aid, not the state. Yeah. And so the state has removed the neighborhood from itself.
Yeah, you're right.
But anyways, I'm really not that happy with you, Anna. You're living in Florida, and when I called you this morning, you were out swimming.
That's
right.
I
live on Lake Huron here, and I thank you for having that much knowledge. I believe when we were talking, when we were deciding whether to do the show or not, that when I told you where I live, you said, "Is that where they're going to bury that nuclear waste?"
Oh.
And yes, it is, and that's another story for another day. But you're in Florida. It's nice and warm. Couldn't get a hold of you this morning. I go, oh my God, where's my guest? She's been out swimming. And our lake up here, the ice was still on it mid-May. And it's still ice cold. And so you've got the better part right now.
Yep. But once again, you know who programmed that? I programmed myself. I moved from California to Florida because I like being close to the water, to the sea water. So we are what we do. It wasn't easy, but we did it because that's what we want. Nobody told us to do this.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the connection to water is. I'm not near salt water right now, but I'm near, one of the Great Lakes. It's just down the street from me. And I don't know what it is. I'm not happy if there's not water around. I don't know if that's a natural thing or what. But it's something that I enjoy being near, at least.
We don't have much time left, of my understanding, but I just, wanted to mention something. When you talked about teachers and I wrote down this word that you wrote, that's the system of education and representative of the system of education. Teachers do it kind of like on purpose. Okay, on purpose. They're teaching kids something, some lies on purpose. I just wanted to mention that because when I worked in California for the school district, I did meet wonderful teachers. They're so passionate about what they do, about students. And of course, they were not happy about what they had to do. And I want to say that a lot of teachers, not a lot, unfortunately, but many teachers are trying. I don't like this word, but they are trying their best to teach kids something that is really helpful. But the bottom line, it is not teacher's job to select what to teach a child or not to teach. It is the parent who is supposed to be in control for what their child is learning in school, at home and in school. Don't know if you understand what I mean. It's the family. For example, when I even lived in Russia, I was really, really concerned when I was selecting a school for my children. By the way, I'm really happy that my children were mostly educated in Russia. When I brought them to the States, they already were teenagers, 16 and 12, so they learned the basics in the Russian, not Russian, Russian system of education. So what I'm saying is that the parents are the ones who are supposed to keep this remote control in their hands. Even if they take their child to a school, you're supposed to be in charge what a child is learning. Why? How is the teacher doing? What is the teacher doing right? What is the teacher doing wrong? If you don't like the teacher, go take a child to another school. But be in charge for your own child until a child is turned 18.
The parent has to be engaged when the parent hands the child over to someone else. The parent, it is very good what you're saying, Anna. The parent has the responsibility to ask questions and to make sure that they understand and that the teacher, the school system understands what you, the parent, expect for your child. And not just drop them off. They're the experts. They'll look after the child, and I won't pay any attention to it.
And then complain.
And then complain, yeah. And that always brings us back, and where I know we're on board on this, is to complain about, which is removing your responsibility. You know, you are the one responsible, period. It's not the politicians, and it's not the school board, it's not the teachers, it's you. Yes. You are the one responsible. So you can't blame the school system for something that happens to your child, or your child comes home and says, "Mommy, I think I'm really a girl." You know, that's something that's been programmed into them, and you weren't paying attention to what's being programmed into them. So, yeah, whose fault is it? It's your fault. And that may sound a little hard to some parents, but that's just a simple fact.
Yeah, you know, and there are ways... And nobody has to teach the parents. Once again, I can give information if I'm asked. But it's not like I'm telling, okay, we have to put a lot of teachers in front of the parents. We have to enforce speech education. No. If a parent doesn't want to learn, if he doesn't care about his own child, which I don't believe, every parent is really concerned about their own child. That's the most treasure we have in our life, our children. But if they don't ask questions, if they don't want to learn, they're going to have to face consequences.
Exactly. Now, Anna, we've just got a few minutes left.
Yeah.
And I've really enjoyed this, and I see some people in the chat saying, "Who is this woman?" And we have already explained that several times. It's Anna Deeter. And, you know, I'm lucky. I'm very particular of who I interview, and you know, last week we had a gentleman on, and the people were really taken with his knowledge in that, and asked that we get him back on, and I'm seeing the same thing in your case here today, so that's all a good sign. But you do run a program that is specifically targeted. See, I got to watch my language with you, right?
Yes, please.
Which is designed, which has the purpose of, I don't know, I'll get the right word yet. But you do have a program for educating, and it's a speech education program that's specifically made for to help stutterers. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. And I've written a book already. It's introduction, a small introduction.
Yeah. So if you would be so kind in the few minutes that we have left, if you have a website, I know you have a Facebook, if you could just you know, let people know what those are, and maybe the name of the book.
Yes.
Where they can.
Yes, I have a program. I'm doing something that conventional approach claims impossible to do. That's what I do. So my book is called Stuttering Solved. Am I saying it without accent? Solved. So I run a program which is based on a new science that is coming from Russia, and it is a speech education program which is based on reality, which is based on laws of nature. So the bottom line, my mentor, that his name I already mentioned, Roman Snishko, he is academic, and he's made this discovery of laws of nature that have never been observed and explained to anybody else before. It's laws of nature. Okay, I'm not going to go there now, but the program is based on following the laws of nature, and it is only in 3 days I educate people who stutter, adults. It's 3 days for adults, and if it's a child, then it's a 3-day parent program, and then we continue educating parents if they have questions. So a person stops stuttering in 3 days. Right in front of my eyes, I've witnessed it already over 30 times. And my mentor has done over almost 3,000 cases already, people who stopped stuttering in 3 days. Does it mean that they are cured? Of course not, because cure for stuttering doesn't exist. They have learned how to speak correctly, and they have the 100% effective tool to continue monitor their speech, to grow their speech at the correct speech at the etalon level. We call it etalon. Etalon stands for standard of measurement. It's perfect way. Okay, so we teach to speak the same way teachers teach a child to write. Okay, it's just simple muscle coordination of body and mind-body coordination. So it's the same way you learn how to perform coordinated movements of your body and mind, and you perform this action correctly, 100%, when you are in control for your action. So it's kind of briefly.
Yeah, I think we're heading out here pretty darn quick. I really wanna thank you. It's funny, because I always say things happen for a reason, and every now and again I run into somebody, and we were banging around on Facebook or something, and we ran into each other that way. I'm not a big fan of Facebook. But I use it to try to shove information out. They've got my blog locked down so bad it's ridiculous now. So I'm just doing whatever I can to move information. So Facebook, as a general rule, is a mess. But every now and again I run across someone who has a good message to bring forward to the people, and I believe you had and have a very good message, and I want to really thank you for coming on the show. So the archives will probably be up 5-10 minutes after the show is over.
I didn't say my website.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, it's www.livestutterfree.com. www.livestutterfree.com.
Okay, that sounds great. So yeah, I want to thank you. Anyways, I was going to say the show will be up on YouTube here probably some hour of today, and I will get you to the link to the archive here of the actual show, the voice archive, and then I'll get you the YouTube of the show today, and then you can put it wherever you want. I know I'm putting it up on my blogs and that as well. So I want to thank Anna Deeter.
Thank you so much for having me.
We've gotten along very well, and that's fantastic. And so I hear music. So again, Anna, thank you very much for doing the show, and we'll do it again someday, okay? Take care, everybody. We're gone. next week, we're going to have a lawyer on next week. So, take care. Bye-bye.
Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air, fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot.